Hey, it is Andy with the FensePost Indie Music and Vinyl blog. For the vast majority of who succeeded Gen X, and for the vast majority of those who succeeded Gen X, and most likely many within that generation as well, Robbie Basho would have faded into obscurity were it not for a handful of reissues within the past decade. And in many cases, he remains in obscurity for the majority of the population anyway. I stumbled upon Basho when his 1978 LP Visions of the Country was reissued in 2013 by Gnome Life Records. In the years to follow, I happened upon a few originals, eagerly snapping them up while crate digging. First was The Falconer's Arm 2, sometime around 2016, and then The Grail and the Lotus the following year. Last year, which was 2022 now, I found an original pressing of Venus in Cancer in the collectibles section at Josie Records. I may have let out an audible squeal when that one came into sight. It's been on my want list for quite a while. Each has found a quite welcome home in my collection. Enter a verifiably new release, Robbie Basho's Songs of the Great Mystery, which had never officially been issued in physical form until it debuted in 2020. I added it to my collection in 2021. Housed in a vibrant gatefold sleeve, as you can see, and pressed on 2 clear vinyl discs, the first issue of Songs of the Great Mystery is limited to an edition of a mere 1,000 copies, as you can see on the hype sticker there. Basho met an untimely demise in 1986 in what I've heard dubbed as a freak chiropractor accident. That means it took 34 years for Songs of the Great Mystery to grace our ears. A mystery in and of itself, to be honest. So what happened? Before I jump into that, let's do a quick unboxing of the release itself. Here we have the hype sticker that says previously unreleased early 70s album from the cult acoustic guitar virtuoso. 2 LP set with notes by Glenn Jones and rare photos. Clear vinyl pressing limited to 1,000 copies. I love this cover. I love that vibrant vegetation all cast in red. Basho, by contrast, his outfit in this extremely blue suit. And of course you have him with his 12-string guitar. The back simply has the track list and some credit information and a photo of Basho. On the inside, you can see the liner notes from Glenn Jones and some of those rare photos that the hype sticker mentioned. And of course, you have the clear vinyl, 2 discs of this with a handful of songs on each side. Finally, I will point out the logo for Vanguard, which says The Lost Vanguard Sessions. Let's talk about that next. To dive into the Lost Sessions, the Lost Vanguard Sessions, we need a little history of Robbie Basho himself and of his Vanguard era. Robbie Basho debuted with the seal of the Blue Lotus way back in 1965. Between 65 and 71, he released records predominantly on Tacoma Records. That's Tacoma with a K. And there were a plethora of them, including 3 in 1967 alone. For his 1972 and 1974 releases, Voice of the Eagle and Zarthus, respectively, Basho made the jump to Vanguard Records, following the footsteps of his college friend John Fahey. A little over a decade before the release of Songs of the Great Mystery, Vanguard reached out to guitarist Glenn Jones about a recorded session featuring Robbie Basho that had been found. But it wasn't until another 12 years before the big epiphany took place. Jones discovered that what Vanguard had found was actually a 3rd full release recorded at the exact same time as Basho's other 2 Vanguard albums. And by same time, I mean that. The 3 albums were recorded in tandem during a single session with Vanguard engineer Jeffrey Zariah. You see it referenced in the liner notes, recorded in 1971 or 1972. Also about this release, we gotta talk a little bit about earlier iterations of later songs. So, an admission. Okay, an admission. The recounting of Vanguard sessions is pulled from a highly condensed reworking of the single paragraph found on Rough Trade's website, where I purchased the album in 2021, as well as liner notes from within this release. I added my own flair, drawing some additional reference points. The next part, though, I will quote directly from Rough Trade's page. Quote, "Some of the tunes showed up on later albums in much different forms. 1978's Visions of the Country featured A Day in the Life of Lemuria, retitled as Leaf in the Wind. And Nightway and Laughing Thunder, Crawling Thunder went through various permutations before appearing on 1981's Rainbow Thunder as Crashing Thunder." End quote. I didn't know that upon my first few listens to Songs of the Great Mystery, but it makes complete sense. I could pick up hints of familiar songs throughout the album, not quite able to pinpoint which tracks they reminded me of. In particular, the early moments of A Day in the Life of Lemuria sparked memories of Leaf in the Wind, while drawing me into the differences. In the description, you'll find a link over to the blog post where you can hear that song as well as a few others from this LP. And now for a little bit different origination story. Perhaps my favorite track off Songs of the Great Mystery is Basho's Death Song. In Basho's early vocal inflections within Death Song, it kind of parallels a song that originally drew me to Basho in the first place. Blue Crystal Fire off of Visions of the Country, the album that started me down the path to loving this man's music and appreciating his creative genius. Death Song, like Blue Crystal Fire, is equally haunting, and that's where I personally find Basho at his best, when the mysteries take over. When his penchant for tales that draw influence from land, nature, non-Western cultures, when those things mesh together for a sound, voice, and style that is wholly unique. Many of Robbie Basho's albums have been reissued on vinyl in the past decade, and I find this great for 2 reasons. First, the original pressings have crept up in value over the years. Second, more accessible pricing means the potential for more people to discover his music. Likewise, new recordings, such as Songs of the Great Mystery, provide a similar enticement while giving longtime fans fresh material to dig into and fall in love with. In the future, I'll be covering some of Robbie Basho's other albums in my collection, ones I mentioned previously. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.